Warning, the following will contain games that are not from 2020. Please do not lose your f***ing mind. So, another year of games, and now the dust has settled, I figured it was time to dip my toe into that most original branch of videos, Top 10s. I love watching these, and they're a nifty way to condense my thoughts into one short video. So, without providing some monologue on either my mental health or the difficulties of getting through 2020, let's just get straight to why you're here, a top 10 list. In at number 10, it's Call of Duty World War II. I'm not much of a fan of the Call of Duty franchise anymore, and although this game hasn't made me do a complete 180 on that stance, it certainly made me pause for thought. The campaign isn't necessarily anything special, but it did still manage to give me some fun, and I did play it all the way through to the end. The characters, their motivations, their flaws and weaknesses were all understandable, and the plot was simple but effective, and the gameplay was surprisingly fresh. I enjoyed the introduction of health packs and asking squad mates for assistance to be a particularly interesting and good design choice. So whilst you're not missing anything by not playing World War II, it just might give you a COD campaign that you actually enjoy. And if you're looking to jump back into the franchise, then this is probably one to consider. In at number 9, we've got Dirt Rally 2.0. And straight off the bat, I don't really play racing games ever. The whole simulation thing has never really appealed to me, and not even enough to make me get a license in real life. However, Dirt Rally 2.0 hooked me for a few weeks this summer, so much so that I recently platinumed the game, which for me is the ultimate statement of video game affection. The joy of racing around the dirt tracks, bouncing along in classic cars like the Mini Cooper, the Volkswagen Golf or the Lancia Fulvia, and even the Subaru Impreza never got old for me. Even months later, I'll occasionally play a game just going around and doing a couple of races while I listen to some music. There's just something really cathartic about driving around the tracks, always on the boundary of completely wiping your car out. Even if you don't like racing games, this one is a must. Next up at number 8, I've got Skate 3. And I know this one is a bit of a cheat, but it's a game that I've never stopped coming back to. I love the skating, I love the world, I love everything that it has to offer. Even the multiplayer back in the day was absolutely fantastic. The skating genre for the last 5 or 10 years has been a pretty barren wasteland, but this one has aged like a pretty fine wine. I've not yet tried the new Tony Hawk game, but I have heard good things, so I probably will do that in the near future. I've never stopped suggesting this game to people. I'll never stop suggesting this game to people. It's an absolutely fantastic one, and you need to go play it. In at number 7 is one that I've already covered on this channel, Hyper Light Drifter. And what can I say about this wonderful game that I didn't already? Shameless plug. It has a compelling and emotional story that I could replay and can only be told in the medium of gaming. It uses mystery and style in a way that I really like. It has surprisingly deep combat, contrary to its appearances, and it has one of the best soundtracks for a game that I've ever heard. Songs like Panacea are nearly impossible to fault, and I just could listen to it on repeat endlessly. It has a beautiful open world, so, what more is there really for me to say? Just go play it yesterday. Number 6 is Cuphead, and what a challenging game this really is. People told me before I played it that it was tough, but I was not prepared for what I got in for. I do enjoy tough games, but this one did nearly break me. If I was to summarise the design philosophy of this game, then I would say it's called skip to the good bit. There isn't any filler, just boss after boss, challenge after challenge, and they're all begging to be overcome. The controls are tight and snappy, as they need to be for a game like this. The challenge is constant, with every new encounter being a totally new set of moves to memorise an outcome, and, spoiler alert, my biggest challenge was King Dice. The level of consistency that I needed to beat this guy was straight up disgusting. But when I did, oh my god, the satisfaction cannot be beaten. And that's why I like tough games like this, Dark Souls, that sort of thing. It's just so satisfying when you finally overcome that huge challenge that you've been smashing your head against a wall for the last hour and a half. Cuphead absolutely epitomises that, and that's why it's on this list. In at number 5, we've got Super Mario Odyssey, and yes, I know again it didn't come out this year. Anyways, growing up I was never really much into Nintendo games, but now in my early 20s I've had a bit of a gaming renaissance I suppose, and Odyssey epitomises that rebirth pretty perfectly. There is honestly nothing that I can say about this game that hasn't already been said. However, I'll give it a go. This game makes an excellent case for confined, unique and jam-packed hub worlds as a means to deliver that feeling of freedom that so many gamers love. And second, it also serves as an important reminder that games can just be fun. They don't need to be serious, they don't need to be thought-provoking, mysterious, any of that bullshit. Just good old-fashioned fun. In at number 4, a game that actually came out in 2020, Ghost of Tsushima. A game that I constantly struggle to pronounce. Anyways, another game that I've covered before on this channel, and another great PlayStation exclusive. Although Ghost doesn't reinvent the open world wheel, it does tweak it in a number of very commendable ways. Primarily, I think the guiding wind is a really innovative solution to the minimap problem that I mentioned in that video, so I do appreciate its effort to mitigate that problem. On top of that, the story cooperates with the open world style of gameplay, slowly uncovering the map as you seek to take back the island from your Mongol invaders. One topic regarding the game that I haven't really covered that much is its story. It's a refreshingly simple revenge tale by all appearances. However, as you play the game, you will uncover the game's hidden depth and the story that lies within it. The use of the samurai code of honor and courage are intelligently juxtaposed with the concerns of practicality and pragmatism that Jin needs in order to take back the island. This creates a very intriguing set of moral dilemmas for both the player and the character alike, and I won't say any more than that apart from go and play this game. It's great. Another one that I'm incredibly late to the party on, number 3, is the original Spider-Man, or Marvel Spider-Man for PS4. I'm definitely pretty late to this, I know that, but I always knew I would like the game, but I just never really got around to playing it. But needless to say, it makes you feel like Spider-Man. And all jokes aside, the gameplay is fantastic. Web swinging is ridiculously satisfying, and the combat, while I feel does have actually some room for improvement, it always left me with plenty of variety. There's punches, gadgets, suit abilities, combos, and so on and so forth. And the story isn't half bad either. We skip all the origin story bullshit that we normally get dumped on us in Spider-Man films, and we're just left playing as quite a mature Spider-Man, or Peter Parker, and let me just say, mature is in inverted commas. But it did keep me intrigued throughout the game's 25-hour runtime. And what's more, the open world version of Manhattan is really impressive, and even had me googling the actual map of Manhattan Island just so I could compare. All in all, Spider-Man is here because it's pretty rock solid from start to finish. There are only a few shortfalls, such as for example making me play as Mary Jane and Miles, but that was such a short-lived part of the game that it would just be pretty nitpicky, and who cares that I had to do that when the game overall is so great. Okay, it's time for number 2, and now we're getting into the big boys. I finished this one about 2 to 3 weeks ago, so just in time for this list. It's the first and only roguelike that I've ever completed to date. It is, of course, Hades. I think I'd like to cover this masterpiece in more detail in future, so suffice it to say the following just as my compliments towards the game. Its gameplay is downright fantastic. Boons provide every run with variety, and they make you adapt your playstyle. I think it's genius. The weapons favour quality to quantity, and as I'm sure that anyone who's watched my Bloodborne video is well aware, that is something that I love. And on top of that, the story is brilliant. The underworld is the perfect backdrop, and unlike so many roguelites, there is just enough story that's trickled in there to keep me coming back after every single run. And finally, the art style is pretty much second to none. I've already bought Bastion and Transistor, and I cannot wait to see what they offer, and I just can't wait to see more stuff from Supergiant Games. Suffice it to say then, I love Hades. Right, it's time for the big one. It's number 1. And I'm sure that you very clever people have managed to induce by now that because it hasn't showed up on this list as yet, number 1 is another massive PlayStation exclusive, and fortunately one that came out in 2020. And at the risk of losing my 300 subscribers worth of credibility, yes, number 1 is the ever controversial The Last of Us Part 2. A lot has been said about this game, and not a lot that I found myself agreeing with in full. Yes, it's an absolutely stunning game, the graphics are amazing. Yes, the gameplay is an enormous improvement from the first game, and yes, the story takes traditional narrative tropes, flips them on their head, and then flips them right back again to make for a fun story that's really compelling from beginning to end. But what I really loved was the massive risk that I feel that Naughty Dog took. The Last of Us Part 1 was one of the most beloved games of the last 10 years, and their willingness to shatter the illusion that was created by the ambiguity of Part 1's ending, I think is fantastic. So many people were convinced that Part 1 had a happy ending, and that I think Part 2 did a great job of taking that and showing that actions have consequences. And really, to put it simply, that was the central theme of Part 2. Actions lead to consequences, leading to worse actions, and then worse consequences. And I loved that, and even more than that, I love that it ended with such a positive message, that it's never too late to repent your wrongdoings and do the right thing. And Ellie not killing Abby at the end of the story was exactly the perfect ending to a particularly messy story of revenge. So yeah, The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2 are great games. Part 2 might have been pretty controversial, but personally, I found it to be a really wonderful experience. Okay, that's it. The hundreds of hours of video games that I've played over the space of this year, all condensed into 11 or 12 minutes worth of video. But I suppose that's the way it goes. I hope you'll like, subscribe and comment and all that kind of stuff. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.